Hey folks, John Gelfian following up on the utterly beyond anti-Semitic extreme hate inflicted against my family and far beyond. That as I remain unable to obtain my constitutional right to fair representation from attorneys, and no, I also waited far too long in reaching to our public for support and trying to obtain this fair representation. I have to now accept what my fellow Ashkenazi said and warned us of, that being that it's not the threat of evildoers, but the threat to humankind, being the good people doing nothing about it. I am posting additional evidence as matters continue to escalate to new extremes. Above all, being that I just found out on Mother's Day, as did my family, that my son is now in a severe critical state. The targeting of statistically unique targeting of special dates has been discussed in prior sample evidence videos, and it's a hell of a thing to find out. As I exhibited prior, I haven't been able to speak to my son in now well over 3 years since his dad was drugged, hauled away, and taken away by ambulance. The terror for which is so extreme. My mom hasn't even spoken to him in all this time either, as he just refuses to talk to anyone. The terror is so extreme. And as matters have escalated, with the free reign of the narcissist and utter inability to attain my constitutional right to fair representation, I'm being forced to go to the government and seek support. This is not my desire, but I have no other choice. So in addition to the updated evidence is my updated ask, which is very simply, very safely, to please let our Colorado representatives know, that being our AG, our governor, and our senators, all of whom I'm reaching to, that we do not accept the torture of children. So while there's several matters, above all being the severe state my child's in, two of them are extreme in that they put me at risk of having my property seized. In other words, my evidence again. The first being the IRS, which, as I exhibited prior, I had originally been notified on a letter dated 12/25 that my 401k tax penalties had never been paid. And as I just found out recently, they still haven't been paid. As you can see, now I have the threat to seize my property, as well as an amount now over $62K that, with the psychotic conspiring, you can see puts me in jeopardy of other risks, such as my passport being taken away. And that's the way these people plan. You can see here my letter on 12/29, my email, where the trustee had responded that she contacted the IRS in response to it, and that she expected payments to be made February, March 2024. My bankruptcy attorney, who made no acknowledgement of the seizing threat either, saying that it should be paid roughly Q1 of 2024. And as we know, as I found out just after that, they never been paid. And again, I reached out, asked why, if she contacted the IRS as claimed, what's going on. No response. You can just see the nonsense. And this has continued throughout. See, back on March 2nd, 23, I did the amended tax returns. So much more to that. But the game's being played. My attorney saying that the trustee would file, the trustee saying she had no idea why, but she agreed that she would, and they should have been paid in May, never have. As a reminder, the 401k tax penalties and my $550K credit card debt was the only debt of the massively conspired forced unwarranted bankruptcy, in which there was also the adversarial complaint embedded with a false $1.3 million proof of claim that was used to steal my $1.4 million home. And as the adversarial proceeding was then dropped, just like so many things in this case, it's since apparently been stolen from my ex-wife as well, and that home needs to be accounted for, and the money, just like all my possessions stolen and everything else. Right in parallel with this, all bubbling up just prior to Memorial Day, which has been majorly targeted every year, just like my dad's birthday as a lieutenant commander in the Navy. And you can see the diluted screen here violation, and they're adding on to all these penalties of payment, which I've paid my fees as agreed and on time every month, and now going after me for additional money, just as they've done throughout, beginning with, in fact, the public defender, that they're also recharging again, that I was forced to, as exhibited before with my attempt to represent pro se. As you can see, it's total fine surcharges, $1,506, the ability to spend $500 payment if I wanted to change, do 50 hours community service, and you can see my response to this, and the requirement that he referred to, which I did not violate at all, and as well as the points regarding the requirement that I did not violate, and then his response that then I'll need to go in front of a hearing for a judge for the revocation, and referencing that there are actually other requirements that I don't have. And I want to point out, too, that while I have no idea what these other requirements, as there appear to be some signed, I do want to quickly add that while I don't know if that's valid or not, there's absolutely no trust, and the forgery. So this is my original plea, which forced me to the public defender. And you can see here, I had to get rid of them, because while they were dropping the disgusting allegations, they were still holding me accountable to be guilty. And the signed off plea on 310, which with the plea follow-up, that still was unacceptable. You can see here the updated plea agreement from the DA that is reusing the same exact signature, date, timestamp. And well, we'll see. It looks to me that the DA might not have even been aware of it, just like I question if he knows he forced me to miss the preliminary hearing, or if the judge knows that. And just like with the 6 out of weeks torture and child alienation that I touched on when the substitute DA misinformed, where it might have been the worst assumption of her life, these mental health experts just continue to set up her systems. So he referred me to finance. I talked to finance. She's claiming the 500 wasn't included. Totally different story, that it was a data entry error, but obviously not a violation then. And I also want to point out, too, with the diluted screen, if that was the case, they could have just waited for the next test, or even asked me to eat something and retested. You can see here, I've been tested twice just in the past week. And let's move on to the payment schedule. 6 payments at $218, and then the $50 a month. It was agreed to after my total fines were paid off, which would only leave the $50, the $41 plus the $9 emergency due each month. And her response here that she was going to add the $500. As we saw, I only owed another $300 left at this point, and her added charges that when you add it up is way over the $500 additional from the attorney. It's more like $1,000 that they're now coming after me for. And I do want to add a quick point on that, I've been forced out of healthcare, working in solar now. You think I can go up to someone more than half a year later and say, hey, I made a mistake, I need to charge more money? Or you think Home Depot can go to someone over half a year later and say, hey, you know what, we only charged you $20 for those light bulbs, we needed to charge 30. The notion that they can come back and coerce it with the threat of jail and revoking my probation is coercion. And when we get to the overcharging, right from the start is the false DUI. It's well below the limit. And I do want to add, too, that the police officers, given all the defamation, did charge me initially with DUI less safe. So it really wasn't until the doubled the reading on my blood work, which we know there is no trust, such as with my suppressed blood work when I was drugged and hauled away from my family, for my virtually nil white blood cell count and other factors, not only is it undeniable I was drugged, but whatever poison they put in me almost killed me. But as to the biggest theft of funds, I tried to address with my public defender. He refused to, saying that I would have to prove police brutality across conspiracy of 3 police forces, which I entirely disagree. But as I showed before, the arrest on 7/29, being the Friday before my Monday hearing. And then there's another factor in this, the 35 days I was held in jail, blamed on Forsyth refusing to release me. So as to that, I don't believe bail was ever requested. As the fact is, if one state arrested on another's behalf and then refused to release them, it would just be one more count of obstruction against my attorneys anyway. But the result of these highly conspired plots, for which I also want to add that the arrest on 7/29, while there could be any number of factors to the timing of it, my guess is that it's the devices per email saying that they wanted to make copies before turning them over. And I do want to note on that, outside of turning over to authorities, any copy shared, such as to my co-founder's wife, with 1.3 million motives, and everyone else, are crimes against me. It makes no difference that I'm a male. Our private videos have no right to be disseminated anymore by anyone. As the fact is, I can be just as easily humiliated or blackmailed by them, and they're crimes against me. So again, the $2,600 taken from me as a result of the deep conspiring that, again, I think is also at the hands of attorneys. Also with that is the probation transfer denials that I also want to back up with that. You can see here, forcing me issues on my 1026 hearing in Colorado, and then with the denial in between that caused problems when I was forced back to Colorado, and my DUI trial on 11/6. You can see the issues with this, not getting permission to go back. You can imagine the impacts with the DUI, and then again forcing me to return to Colorado immediately after, where I couldn't even get my hardship license, and there's just so much more. And at that time, while I had these back and forth denials, just like I have throughout, so heavily coordinated, you can see my probation transfer had never even been requested. And as a major part of the plea agreement, one of 3 key requirements, not only has the probation denial completely violated my plea, but the added family alienation with it, as it took away my one family support group, that being my family and a few dear friends that I could still trust, as all my friends in Colorado abandoned me. So there's many more issues. One other I want to touch on, given that it's an entire hate case unto itself, is with the DV class. While dropped a week before Christmas, having been put on drug testing and starting the class, even while I was still waiting for a response from Fulton, which is another sign that it never got requested, but we'll find out with the 2 probation transfer denials. You can see here that just like a week before I was dropped, on December 14th, the same thing when I was going to accept a job offer and had to turn it down because it was a class added right during my weekly meeting. Same thing here, switching me from morning class to my Monday afternoon class, for which I have a weekly mandatory meeting, and I'm likely to lose my job here that I just got. And that goes so much deeper to see. But as a point I wanted to make here, I also submitted them the evidence, since they're accusing me of being guilty of the convictions I've been accused of and not found guilty of, and they are obligated to report crimes. So while I haven't gotten a response, we'll see what happens. Just a reminder on some things: the IP theft, acknowledgement of my co-founder, his wife being the #1 escalator in the criminal discovery, the redirecting, as I had informed the FBI, which I now know was derailed as well, the PNSR against the military, redirected as if they were my personal attorney, but then also redirected in the police report that I had bought this gun to protect from them and Republicans, which I'm not even a Democrat, I'm an independent. And then, just as I know that statement came from the dear friend I've spoken many times, who showed up in 15 minutes at the family separation conspiracy, I think it's safe to say my wife wouldn't be making this comment, ex-wife, if I was anti-FBI. And also the redirecting that's so egregious, while also ignoring that disgusting claim that brought so much downstream damage with my criminal case. But meanwhile, my divorce attorney deferring matters to them, criminal matters in my divorce. And I do just want to say on that note, has our government ever interjected themselves into a supposedly normal divorce, especially between 2 seemingly nobodies? Also, the fraud therapist that I touched on before, who is not even a family, not even a qualified healthcare practitioner, let alone a family integration therapist. The court had no right to place this barrier between my children and I. But the point that my public defender even knows who this guy is, according to him. And let me just say this: if I believed in death penalty, he would be my #1. You can read through this as well. You may have to pause on these screens. But again, with the child alienation, the TPO dropped the day after being used to threaten permanent protection order again, like with the divorce, and dropped the day after I filed on my dad's birthday. And a year later, I found out I'd been banned from my son, and was then immediately transitioned to criminal defense attorneys who claimed that kids were on the witness list. In the critical months, leading up to my hearing on 428, where I was banned now from both children, going back and forth, not on the MPO, but the witnesses. They're not on either, and led to not only the 6 weeks of court-driven child alienation wrongfully imposed by the judge, as I was the one forced to bring up the witness list, and the DA lied, which was probably the worst assumption of her life based on my public defender. Also forced me into not only forced me into a misdemeanor plea as I wasn't able to present any more evidence, but an added second count that I was blindsided with DV. And as you can see here, my children were never listed. It's unacceptable. Also want to add to the attacks beyond just the child alienation and the use of it. I never wanted a divorce. Here's a 32-page document I shared prior. You can read here. They're trying to claim that we both agreed to a divorce. I clarified here. No, never did. I was forced into filing to avoid the permanent protection order and open the lines of communication as such. And the attorney's response, well, it doesn't matter. She wants a divorce. So it doesn't matter who filed. Made a clear desire to her attorney. And again, the irretrievably broken claim, and whether my ex-wife's attorney is telling the truth that she believed the marriage irretrievably broken, or whether my son is, the fact is that my children believe I was the one who wanted a divorce. You can see here, and that is beyond child alienation. Just like the claim that by attorneys but the notion being that I had them file a false proof of claim so they could steal the house from me and then drop it so they could then steal from my family. But again, redirected, just like all the pain, suffering, and torture inflicted against me. And I'm asking for help. Again, there's prior evidence videos you can look at. There's a GoFundMe for anyone kind enough to help. But what I'm asking for is for you to please reach to our Colorado representatives and let them know we do not agree with the torture of children. And one last thing I want to say here is that going through this, having all my possessions stolen from me, everything stolen, losing all my friends, none of that really matters. It does, but nothing compares to your family. So just a word of advice: protect your families, love your families. They are everything, and I love you all. Thank you.